Welcome to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Linkowsky, and I am a certified franchise consultant and the owner of Milestone Franchising. I represent hundreds of concepts in the franchise space across many, many industries, and Franchise Focus shines a spotlight on franchise experts within the franchise industry. And today, really excited to have all the way from Rochester, New York, Debbie Bernacki, who came from us with a franchise herself. So she is a franchisor, and she's got a great concept called Happier at Home. And Debbie, thank you so much. Welcome to Franchise Focus.
Great, nice to meet you, and I'm so glad you have me here.
No, we're really excited to have you. So let's talk about Happier at Home. Let's talk about, how you got into this space and what your background is. You've got a really incredible story to share, and it's slightly emotional, so we're going to keep our emotions, in check, but walk me through. How did you get to here?
Well, my background in healthcare started from when I was very young. At 15 years old, I was volunteering in a hospital as a candy striper, and I just always was drawn to healthcare. So from there, going into college, I started in radiology. Just wasn't enough for me, so while I was going to classes during the day, in the nighttime I was taking additional classes at another college to further my education. So with that, I got a couple college degrees, and then I decided I wanted to get into nursing. And so I worked the great majority of my career in the emergency department as a registered nurse, and really enjoyed that. And I think what I really enjoyed was the challenge and the pace, and always something new going on. And so that I found was part of my personality. And right along though, as far as the business aspect of it, at the time when I was a child, I didn't know it was being an entrepreneurial type of person, but I was always looking for types of things to build for myself. So starting at about 10 or 11 years old, I started a paper route. And so I was out there in the terrible weather in Rochester, New York, delivering papers, managing the finances. I had to collect money from people. I had to keep track of who had accounts receivable from a young age. So I think that people who are entrepreneurial know that. They could feel that. Maybe not identify it when they're younger, but also having that risk-taking characteristic where you're not afraid to leap and just try something new. So as I was going along and working in the emergency department, I thought, well, it'd be great to start a business doing legal nurse consulting. I had looked into it in part of my advanced education in nursing. I wrote a paper about it, and I thought, you know what, this is something I'd love to do. So I started a business doing the legal nurse consulting, and it was going really well. With the exception of the attorneys that were my clients only wanted me to do the work. I started bringing on more nurses, and that's what you need to do to grow and to create a business. And they just wanted me to do the work. So I thought, wow, this is becoming a job. It's not an actual business that I could grow, and I wasn't feeling connected to patients and helping people. So it was something that I was considering selling, and always had in the back of my mind that I'd love to start a home care business.
And working in the business versus working on the business is such a distinction that often people are so far into it that they can't see their way out. Right. And someone will say to me, how do you know when you can franchise a business? And I go, when you're not working in it. So you're all the way in this business and you're not getting the satisfaction of what it is that you're seeking. So what comes next?
So, well, the next event that happened was with my mother. So she was diagnosed with glioblastoma. It's a primary brain cancer, and that was in 2007. And during our experience of keeping my mother home and during her illness, for the 6 months that she lived after her diagnosis. I was on the consumer side of it. I saw how really poorly run home care companies were. I didn't agree with how they were treating the clients, being the patient and the family. And I thought to myself, wow, this is horrible. And I'm a huge advocate. I can speak up for people in need. I could speak up for my family and for my mother. But at that time, it just seemed that even though I knew what to do and I can work hard to advocate for my family, that there were so many people who don't know how or won't speak up. And so before my mother even passed away, I told her I was starting a business so people wouldn't have to go through what we went through as a family and as a consumer. So that's what I did. And I told her, Mom, I'm starting this business. This is going to be done a different way and a better way. And that's what I did. And she knew before she passed that I was going to do that, and she knew it was going to be successful too.
All in her honor and in her, and what a loving testament that you will have now forevermore in taking something that is such a difficult time period for you and for your family, and then coming up with an idea for how you cannot let others go through the difficulty. And that's why you and I have a shared, we talked prior to this that I had gone through the same thing with my mother-in-law, being at home, having a transition out of the home, and what that was like, and not knowing that there were even professionals out there that can assist you in any of that. And it was just mind-boggling. And the same thing, complete patient advocate, going, what is happening? Really difficult. So you decide to create Happier at Home, and tell us what is the basis for that?
So starting out my business, I started it just for the purpose of advocacy and keeping people at home as long as possible and independent. So as my business evolved, we added a couple lines of service or lines of revenue just because I saw what was needed out there. So Happier at Home was established in New York State, which is highly regulated.
Yes, it is.
So many other states, you can do more for your patients without your hands being tied. So my original location, we just did companion care and added on the care advocacy, also medication management solutions, and now with the advent of COVID, we added virtual visits on as well. So that was a basis of the business model that I created. And I knew I had something unique because, as I'm told, when I first started franchising, there was not another home care company that was also within their business model doing the care management or care advocacy as well. So it is a very important part of our business model.
Right, so you found an area that there was a need, and you fulfilled this need, and there's nothing really out there in the franchise space, which is always when I'm talking to my candidates, those are the things that ding, 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 that's the thing, those are the things I'm always hearing, because if it's the same thing but packaged in a different way, but when you hear about something where you're going, no, this is the only one that's doing this avenue in this area, so very, very important. So you are 4 years young, Happier at Home, as a franchise system, and how many locations do you have currently today?
We have 7 locations. And we are opening another one very soon in Michigan. So we are trademarked and design marked with our name, Happier at Home. So that's a great thing to protect for our franchisees. And it's across the country. So I'm really excited to be able to share the business model for other people to experience what I've been able to do for myself, and to become that authority in senior care in our community.
What other states beside New York and Michigan are you in?
Florida, Texas, and Alabama.
Fantastic. So there's still a wide, vast availability across the country.
Yes.
Are you registered in Maryland?
We aren't yet. And I don't know what the requirements are because 50 states, everything is different for every
Maryland
state.
is just as much fun as New York, if not a little bit more fun. So yeah,
well, there you go.
I ask in jest. I ask in jest because it's a difficult one.
Too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you start this concept, now it's going well. You're just at the start of this, really, because you're an emerging franchise. You're less than 10 years. You're less than 10 franchise, systems that are out there, and you have a pandemic.
Yep.
Right? So you have a pandemic, and we're still seeing the effects of the pandemic. We're still, across the country, we're still moving through that. How are the franchise owners that are with you handling all of that? Are they getting through? Are they, getting stronger throughout every day with this? What's happening?
So initially with the pandemic, we saw it kind of going in phases. A lot of people felt, well, I just really want to stay home. I don't want to move into assisted living or into a nursing home because they were seeing how their loved ones were being kept from them, or they couldn't go in and visit for different, regulatory reasons. Each of our locations was different, but we saw a rise in the cases. But then, unfortunately, we've had clients, patients that have passed from it. So it did affect us. With the unemployment incentives, that affected us because we needed to hire more. And so that was a drawback. But now things are opening up. People are realizing we really do want to stay home. Our other states like Texas, Alabama, they're more free to do the personal assistance services. So everyone is taking off again. All the franchisees are doing really well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, such a difficult time for so many, and especially in this specific case, which, is so client-focused and patient-focused. And then you've got the unemployment issue, and there's just so many layers, and yet you're standing, you're all rising from, the ashes, and this is it. Like you're moving full steam ahead. What have you seen for the owners that are with you at this point? Is there a trend in the type of owners that are being attracted to your model, and why?
Well, we are focusing on those that have business experience or are existing businesses. And that is my learning experience. I've had the experience of some that don't have the business experience, maybe even have a healthcare background. But I've seen that having the operational experience, the leadership, the business on business is huge. That is what I'm focusing more on. We have built our team to include a social media marketing manager. So we handle all of that for our franchisees. My VP of franchise development, he's out there making sure he connects with the right people, with the right types of candidates. Now, a lot of what we do are with independent pharmacy owners, and they're hit by regulations all over the country. And so they really need to be able to diversify their portfolio of services that they offer. With Happier at Home, we have private pay sources of revenue, so that's an important thing for them. And also just expanding into the community, being able to show their customers that are in and out of their pharmacies all the time that they are a one-stop shop. If you need services to stay home, we are expanding into home and community-based services, and you trust us as your pharmacy, so trust us with your company, with providing in-home care. And so it really is a seamless connection for those existing businesses. And they have a lot of the pieces in place already. Certainly with the employment issue, I told you it's improving, but as an emerging franchisor, it's also allowed me to be able to, as the founder and CEO, act quickly. We added those virtual visits. With a larger company, you're not able to pivot as quickly. But we do have my vice president of training and field operations. She's an educator by profession, and what she's done is created boot camps where we're helping the franchisees to really be accountable for recruiting, for the interviewing, onboarding, and getting them to work. So we have a great support system for our franchisees, and we really help you through anything that we see as maybe a problem that others have seen in the industry and that type of thing.
Right, and be able to turn to it. And yes, going back to your original point that business development is key in business ownership. It just is. And when someone does not have that critical piece, it's tough. They have a much more difficult time. And there's so much that goes into that business development and building your franchise in your community and getting it up and running and being that trusted, source. So having, these pharmacy owners that have this vertical integration with you, so smart, because it's a complimentary service. The patients that are coming in, the clients rather that are coming in, can tend to want or need these services. They already trust this pharmacist, right? So it's such a smart collaboration for you to have aligned yourself with, which is fantastic.
And so we see them as if we start out with patients, if a pharmacy owner owns a Happier at Home franchise, if they are gaining patients, then they may become a feeder to the pharmacy where they're now using that pharmacy or managing their medications at home. And likewise, from the pharmacy, they're a feeder to the home care business, all with the intention of keeping people as independent as possible and at home as long as possible, which then helps the pharmacy owner keep their customer base too.
Wonderful. We're going to stop at this point and we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Linkowsky, and I'm sitting today with Debbie Bernacki, who is the CEO and founder of Happier at Home. And Debbie, right before the break, we were talking about that you have found this interesting collaboration with pharmacy owners that are doing very well as franchise owners of your system, which is great. But you don't need to be a pharmacist owner in order to own a Happier at Home. Just wanted to make sure everyone understands that. It just is a nice niche that has been found in that particular area. So let me go back just a few moments. When did you decide to franchise? Because I'm asked that all the time. I'm thinking about, I've got this concept and I think that I should franchise. When was your light bulb moment that this is something that you should be doing?
Well, I can't say that it was any one specific moment, but what I knew was that I had something unique that I can bring not only to people who want to start their own business and help people to accomplish and reach their dreams, but I also knew that this is a needed thing in the communities. So to be able to help people in that way, I was attracted to it. The other thing about me is I always want to see what the next step is. You know, my corporate location is doing great, and at the time when I started thinking about franchising, it was doing wonderfully, and I thought, okay, what's the next step from here? And that's when I thought about franchising, and was very happy to be able to set another goal for myself, and I enjoy that whole process. I enjoy it.
And was the actual process, because it's a really in-depth process, like really in-depth.
It is.
For once you decide that you want to go down that path, do you mind saying what company that you used for your franchising?
I actually didn't use a company.
You didn't use a company
No.
to franchise your company?
No.
Okay.
So I had my business attorney.
Okay.
That helped me with the FDD. And honestly, I didn't know what was going to be involved because you're right. It is expensive and it's really time consuming. I wrote every operating procedures from, cover to back. And I used an attorney. I had a business coach who kind of took a look at my operating procedures, all the documentation I had, and just was another set of eyes. So really just having individual professionals. I did not have one company that did it for me.
How long was the process from the moment that you decided to say, yes, this is what I want to do, to the point that you then were a franchised organization?
I would say about 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
At least.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Least. And especially the first time you get your FDD filed and approved, that takes quite a while too in each state. At least in New York State it did.
Oh yeah, and the FDD is your franchise disclosure document. That's the document that is utilized by all franchise organizations across the board, and it breaks out all of the different areas that are very specific to your franchise, and it breaks it out for the person that's interested in buying the franchise. Also breaks out in something called the item 19, right? So do you have an item 19 at this point, I would assume?
Yes, we do.
So you have an item 19, and that shows various things dealing with where your finances are and what the systems are seeing with their finances, and it talks all about what the core business is, and it talks about if you've had any bankruptcies and if there's other interested parties involved, et cetera, et cetera. Was there one part of the FDD that you did find like the most difficult to deal with, or no?
I think in the beginning, the item 19, not having an item 19 was a problem, but that's what every franchise starts out with.
That's right,
Every
the chicken and the egg,
Yep.
right? You got to get going, and you don't have your item 19, right?
Yeah.
And so you just sit there, and you're SBA registered, correct?
Yes,
So,
we are.
So being on the SBA registry helps a franchise, because the candidates that are interested in buying this franchise can then secure lending through the Small Business Association. So they've already vetted you to say that you are a well-qualified company, that they're willing to take a risk and
Right.
take a chance on. So it's very helpful. So you've got an item 19, you've got the SBA registry, which is
Yes.
all good things that people are looking for always. One of the most difficult areas within the senior care, and you're not senior care, by the way, because you're open to anyone that needs to be staying at home due to some sort of disability or illness.
Right.
So, but in this space, you're looking at a very specific type of person that is needed for fulfilling that help. Really tough today, within, across the country. How are your franchises handling that? And what do you tell prospective candidates that are interested? They go, Debbie, I really like this, but I'm really worried that I'm going to get up and running and then I'm not going to find anyone that's going to be able to take care of the client care. How are you addressing that?
Well, it's extremely important to us because they're the face of our company in these communities. So during our training to begin with, we're making sure that we have excellent training for our franchisees. We have a training in Rochester, New York for at least 5 days, but there's a whole module specifically on recruiting and orienting, training our caregivers. We look for people who perhaps don't really need to be in the workforce, people who are retired, who want to give back, who are empty nesters, who really not only will help someone with their gifts, but also it gives back to them too. They're happy to look forward to go and help their clients. But the other thing that we're doing also is, I touched on it earlier, is our Marie Rodriguez, our Director of Training and Field Operations, she's developed boot camps for our current franchisees, and she does the training for our new franchisees and works with our franchisees to make sure that they're taking every step that we suggest. Because we can go through training and tell you what to do, and then you get back to your hometown and it's a lot. So what we do is this boot camp where she holds you accountable for the steps that are needed to do excellent recruitment. And our recruiting doesn't just stop. We are recruiting and hiring all of the time.
Right.
We might get a phone call, usually it happens at 5 o'clock on a Friday, that we have a new case that needs care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never want to turn away cases like that, because number one, they need you, obviously, and number two, it means a lot of revenue for you. So we always are talking, we have formulas of how many people you should have on the bench ready to go, and at any point when our franchisees have questions, we have monthly meetings and things like that, but also I'm accessible to them. Text, email, those types of things. And so if they just need a little bit of advice on something, questions about something, I have close contact with my franchisees.
That is the difference of a emerging franchise, by the way, that you get that access to the CEO, which is wonderful, always. So you are really working with your system to help address this, really critical piece of this. And another question for the owners, are they looking at more of a semi-passive concept with this, or are they owner-operator all in, working in this, 16 hours a day?
Yeah, well, for the individuals that have joined our system, they work in it themselves. Okay. But for the business owners, the pharmacy owners, they usually are tapping someone on the shoulder that's within their system already, or hiring specifically. So they do need to have at least one full-time person working within the business all the time. And it gets busy pretty quickly because the business grows pretty quickly. So I help them and work with them to identify when it's good to add another person on, whether it's part-time or full-time, what type of person they should be, or job description they should be looking at for that. But honestly, the pharmacy owners, they usually have someone else that runs it for them. And when we do our field visits, then we're looking at everything that's going on there. And we wrap it up and have meetings with to include the pharmacy owner, because they need to know what's going on and keep their finger on the pulse of that business as well.
Well, this was a great discussion, Debbie, and I wish you such amazing success. And again, such a great tribute to your mom. You have also a weekly TV show that you are on up in Rochester, New York. And
yes.
What show is that?
That's Good Day Rochester. It's on Fox News up in Rochester, and every Monday morning I'm on, and I help people by talking about things that I'm seeing in the community and any questions that I could help people with. And what's nice about that is I use those news clips for our franchisees. We use them on social media, and that in turn helps their search engine optimization. I think that's a really unique thing that we have for
Excellent.
our franchisees.
Well, you're going to want to get a hold of Debbie so that you can be a part of her fabulous system, Happier at Home. We're putting her contact information up on the screen right now. And we thank Debbie for coming here and talking to us about her love and passion within this franchise system, within this franchise industry of giving back and helping others. And every week, Franchise Focus airs on Fridays at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We thank you so much for tuning in, and you can find out more about me at milestonefranchising.com.